Today is, I mentioned, we mentioned through the course of the day, and I don't know if you were here just before 3 o'clock, a very special tribute paid today by Justin Trudeau. He is there in Normandy with many, many international world leaders, marking the occasion, this 80th anniversary of D-Day. Sterling Downey is a Montreal city councillor, and a very, I think, beyond well-known as a city councillor, well-known for his support of veterans across this city. We had a chance to talk to him, and I'll provide a link with you or later in the show to a podcast we did together as well. But Sterling, first of all, thanks for being here. I wanted to start off, rather than by talking about D-Day specifically, talking about this move underway now, and I don't think many people know this or knew this. The largest veteran cemetery in the country is in this city. It is the National Field of Honor. It's in Pointe Claire, and unfortunately, it's running into financial problems. And I know you're very involved in this as well. So can you tell, first of all, our audience a little bit about it, and what is the issue right now?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for bringing light to this important issue and making sure our veterans are remembered. So the National Field of Honor Last Post Fund cemetery in Pointe Claire, a lot of people who don't know about it may miss it, because if you're driving along the 20, you wouldn't know it's there unless you go over onto Downey and come back the other way. So over 22,000 of our veterans and their family members are buried at the Field of Honor from World War I, World War II, a bunch of different conflicts, Korea. And it's a huge property, obviously. It's a beautiful property, a huge property. But as you know, a property of that size requires an enormous amount of maintenance. I think, unfortunately, we all remember throughout the pandemic the issues that was going on with maintenance of cemeteries like on Mount Royal. Mm-hmm. So we know that that's extremely important, and it's something that has to be done to honor our fallen and our past. So it's become more and more challenging for the organization who runs the cemetery to be able to pay for these maintenance fees, and they rely primarily on volunteers to come in and, think about cutting the grass for your front yard. That's something, but think about cutting your grass for a cemetery that has 22,000 people in it, and the responsibility and maintaining it and all this. So right now they're struggling, and the issue is, a lot of it's based on donations, and that's how they fund these activities and the maintenance of the space. And right now the idea is to get Veterans Affairs Canada or get the government to actually take ownership of this and provide the funding necessary to make sure that our veterans, where they're buried, they lie in dignity and they lie in respect. And overseas in Europe, if you look even in Normandy right now or anything at these cemeteries that are there for our soldiers that fought, these places are meticulous. They are maintained and they are meticulous. There's no question about the importance of the investment in doing that, considering the sacrifices that these people made. So that's where we're at. And there's a petition now online that you can find in different networks, by Facebook and other people's, that are going around trying to get as many signatures as possible to get the government to actually, do what's right and hopefully treat this as a priority. And it's a good time to be talking about it now, just because of what today is. So
let me ask something else. I know we talked about this for people who have not seen this podcast now. This issue of the Canadian military in general, the armed forces in general, we know that recruitment has been more and more difficult. Fewer younger people apparently seem to want to get involved in this. It's obviously a problem. We know on a bigger scale, the federal government, of course, has been taking it on the chin over the fact that we're simply not spending what we're supposed to spend in military spending and defense spending in this country. What do you think needs to change? How do you get, and I ask you this because people will find out, you have decided at the age of 51 that you want to enlist.
Yeah, well, I did enlist in January, actually. I enlisted. I went through the process and I started it. I enlisted in the Canadian Armed Forces as a reserve infantry soldier. So I'm at the middle stage of the process right now, where now it's medical stuff that's going through. There's been a current rejection. I'm going to have to contest it. It's fine. I'm waiting for my paperwork to come in. But I'm very determined in trying to get in there, because regardless of your age, you can still give something back, whether it's mentoring even younger recruits and younger reservists or whatever. I just want to find a way. I think it's important for me to contribute. My father served in the Second World War. He was a veteran. All my uncles served. My nephew is in service now, currently in the reserves with the Black Watch. He was deployed during the pandemic. He was deployed during the floods. He was deployed during the forest fires. So I have a lot of admiration for our reservists and our soldiers and the regular forces too that are serving our country today, and who are also out in Poland and out around the borders of the Ukraine, training soldiers there, and other deployments, policing deployments around the world too, and UN missions and everything. So it's important because we can all give back. And, we talked about that yesterday. My father, when he enlisted, he was 15 and he lied about his age and was 16. And most of the men and people who got involved back then, including women, all lied about their ages. Buzz Burling's a famous story about the pilot. He lied and he had to go overseas to join the Royal Air Force. Now it's funny because now I find people who are older are struggling to try to get into the forces. So I should have lied about my age and said I was 20 years younger.
There you
go, yeah. but honestly, there's an issue because the other thing is we don't think about Canada being at war, right? We're a nation that tries to advocate for peace, and we go in and we try not to be involved in engaged conflict or armed conflict, or we go in as support to other countries. And I think because of that, there's a lack of investment because people don't realize the importance of the Canadian Armed Forces and Reserves. And we touched on it briefly yesterday. I just named the pandemic, the floods, the forest fires. I named 3 very important things that happened within our borders. Our Canadian Armed Forces and our reserves were deployed locally. They were domestically deployed within our neighborhoods, at our long-term care facilities, in the West Island, in out west right now for forest fires. So having trained individuals who can respond, and for our older listeners who, like myself and that, who remember the ice storm and seeing the military out restoring power and communication lines, all of these things are part of it. The Navy out on patrolling the seas, helping protect fishing agreements, for immigration, making sure people are safe, combating drug trafficking, piracy, you name it. The Canadian Armed Forces plays a major role in protecting our country, even within our own borders and domestically, and protecting our citizens. And it's something that we need to continue to invest in. And the reality and the scary reality is, with what we see going on in other parts of the world, you never know what can happen. Democracy is extremely fragile, and we know the cost it came at for many of our veterans that we talk about who aren't with us anymore, and the sacrifices they made. And God forbid we ever have to do that again. But if we do, men and women who are trained are going to have to stand up and do that. But with climate change, which is probably our biggest danger and our biggest adversary, or the biggest threat to our nation, is going to be climate change. And we're going to need people to support local powers. And the Canadian Armed Forces are the individuals who are trained. The engineers, they can build bridges, they can restore power lines, they can help with communication, So, I don't even think I need to explain more than that. I think that should resonate with people in itself.
Yeah, I wonder, we're going to run out of time. The message that has to come from the Canadian Armed Forces in trying to recruit those people and trying to recruit younger people, what has to change in that message?
Well, I think we just need to explain to people that you can have a civilian life and a civilian job, and you can still serve part-time in the reserves if that's the case. If you want, it doesn't have to be full-time military, but you can also choose a full-time career in the military if you want. And I hope that I'm being an example of that. And employers, more importantly, employers need to favor retaining reservists who they know who are their employees in their companies, and adopting military leave policies like we just adopted at the city of Montreal that I spearheaded, where we favor our employees, whether they're SPVM officers, firefighters, engineers, urban planners, you name it, security guards, whatever. If they are also reservists, that they don't have to give up serving in the reserves to work full time. And these policies help them be able to continue to train, deploy if they need to for short periods of time, and do the job that they're trained to do to protect their neighbors and global citizens and their own citizens within their own borders. So that's part of it too. I think we need to educate people to say that you can go into the military as a young person while you're in school, so it pays for your schooling, but after, you shouldn't leave. You don't have to leave the military. You can have your life, have your job, have your family, and still continue to serve in the military.
Sterling Downey, Montreal City Councillor, on the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Sterling, thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you so much, and thank you for always supporting our veterans.
Take good care.